Okay, so let's make an agenda, guys. What we're gonna do it, but today it will not be like too formal, training kind of thing which we've been doing it and doing all the things and doing the things and so on. So we'll start with something like Spring MVC Architecture. That's where we give an introduction. That's what we tried to give around yesterday. Plus, we'll write a small program on AOP, just by understanding what is the concept. Now, once after this, we start the sprint, then it might take around 1 or 2 hours for us from now. Plus, so we'll introduce to something like web drivers with Jenkins. That's where our some automated things are. Then we go back to our the old story of connecting to the Git repository, try recalling the Jenkins stuff, try embedding or maybe I try having some email stuff sent to you. Because my system I configure with the Gmail. So again, it depends on you if you have the system to be some password to your company, you can try using that. Plus, we'll try writing some uh, cron jobs. Right? So cron is like you want to just automate things and so on, those kind of things. Maybe you can go with one of the two kind of projects, either it's a freeware project or the Maven project. So absolutely left you. So these things are like we'll keep it. But for this, I don't have a concrete solution as of now. So we got to come out with that. We create a dummy project, go back to the repository, we'll create something, let the Jenkins get. Every 5 minutes we'll run a job, we'll see how it goes. Right? Okay, this is done. Maybe there could be some scenarios where I don't want to run the job, but whenever there is a source code change, I want that to be done. Right? So you have various requirements. And whenever there is a fail, you want to send some email kind of thing. So you want some war file to be developed, all those things done. So the Jenkins, of course, we have got an introduction to it, but we have not drilled down of understanding why it is, what is the beauty of it. So let's try putting that as our second part of the discussion. But anyways, we get started with Spring work. Okay. So Spring we have got a couple of things. Now, first and foremost, we tried having two projects. One is Spring Work, which is for AOP. I'm sorry, the core one, and the Cucumber. That's what we have it in our project. Now let's get started with something like MVC. So have we got any files on MVC so far on the LMS? Can you just check? If not, I'm gonna give it. Now, if I'm not wrong, yesterday two files were given, which was there in our drive. So let me check the drive, which have it. So maybe if you could open the drive, it will be good. Perfect. So I'll go to my trainings and yeah, perfect. So here we go. So the Spring stuff and okay, got this beans.xml and okay, let me do one thing. So the file which is called as web.xml and the context file, I'll just try putting it. Maybe you can try opening the drive in a minute. Just give me a second. I'll try putting those things quickly. It's all there here. Not here. Okay. So workspace, you have have we got that? Just check now. Refresh it. Have you got that? Perfect. You got two files already. So plus, I have to give you one more thing, which is uh, instead of downloading all these jars, we'll take form.xml. Okay. So let me give you another file, which is now when you refresh my file is something like this. So you got this web.xml, the form.xml, and company servlet. These are three files which you would have got. Perfect. So I put a form.xml, which we try reading like that table file. Okay. Yeah. So we try reading a web project. Okay. Perfect. So let's go back.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are
So here we
in
go. I'm
listen-only
gonna go to
mode.
File, New. I would select Other. I would select Other. Here, I would try having Maven. So maybe since we have this form.xml ready to use, we use a Maven project. Okay. Okay, just make so that we are there together, right? So that it becomes pretty quickly. Next. Now the kind of project which we are looking is not the core project, it's a web project, right? So here, okay, it's taking some time. I don't want to check this. Next. Okay, so you can key in something like web, you get an option, option here. Org Apache Maven archetype web app, which is the web application. Okay. So it's a web application project. So that's something like the dynamic project which we used to create. Okay. So let me click on next, and group ID you could give it as com dot. Let's consider my company artifact ID. My company, perfect. Nothing much to be there. You can just say it as my company. Okay. There will be certain refracting thing which we may have to do it because I've been using like com.naveen there. You have to use. Maybe you can put your name. So if it is generic, you can follow the same naming convention. I'm okay with that. Perfect. So let's click on finish. So a sample Maven project should be created. Okay. So we also have got the form.xml. So what do we do? What we do is let's try opening this form.xml here in your Eclipse. It's taking some time in my system, maybe because I'm recording and doing things and so on. I use form.xml. Perfect. So you have this JUnit, not all that particular here. Inside this dependencies, right here. I got to put some dependencies. Now, where are our dependencies? Let me have a look at this. So it's there in my local system. Okay, maybe you have downloaded right now. Okay, which I had already tried and kept it. So just as an example, I try opening this with a Notepad++. Okay, so first and foremost, I make an entry here, which is called as properties. Now, if you look at the form.xml, I try using a variable name called as Spring version. So this is that Spring version. You could go ahead and try writing 4.0.5 release right here, or declare a variable called as properties and try putting it. So what I do is I'll copy this part, properties. Okay. Then in my Eclipse, I would put it outside dependencies. Be a little cautious. It's not inside dependencies. It's outside dependencies. Okay. Perfect. Good. So if you are changing the version here, you can give it in one go, and all other places it gets reflected. Okay. Yeah. Maybe outside this dependency, anywhere here. Now the good place is this. That's why I leave it here. Okay. Getting it now. This part, right from the dependency, I have one dependency, 2, 3, 4. JavaX is there, good commons login is there, servlet is there. This JUnit, anyways, we already have it. You need not copy till here. So all my Spring related things are kept in one go. That's more important. Right, guys? Hello? Yes, no? No? We used to play that game. Hello? I think we stopped it. Perfect. So let's go back. Now inside dependencies, I would right click, paste. I click on save. Give a minute because I feel even in my case it wasn't there. Anyways, it's done. Maybe in your case it might take a minute or so because it is trying to download from the repository. Okay, so this should be okay. Now let me also show you that Maven dependencies. These are the dependencies which I would have got. Maybe if you don't want this JUnit, you can get rid of it. That's not all that required for our project this time. We don't want JUnit. If you want, you can have it. So you got Spring Core, context, AOP, and all web MVC, expressions, views, all this, blah blah blah, all of it dependencies. Start.
So whatever you update in this form.xml,
You delete one dependency if you got. For example, I would say here I don't want JUnit, so I would just go ahead, this dependency, delete it, save it. Got. In fact, that jar file is there. Now, where is your jar file? Just to give you a insight of it, I don't know if you remember this. I'm sorry. CMD. Yeah, you have a folder called as .m2. So it's a cd.m2. So here you have the repository. You have JUnit still. Okay, this is where it refers to. Anyways, we are back to our Eclipse. Okay, should that be okay? We have got the jar dependencies. Good to go. So now the next job is inside SRC. I'm gonna close this. I just don't want this to be open. I'm gonna close this now. Now main web app. Okay, this is our typical structure of the project. Okay, I would open this web.xml, double click on it. It gives you a bare minimum information saying that no, it's a web app, art type, created, web application, blah blah blah, whatever. So go back to your web.xml, which I have shared it. Okay, I would also do that. I'll go to that's not this folder. Yeah, here you go. Here in SRC main web app, this is what I have given you. There are two files. So if you open this web.xml here, I want you to copy this part, the entire tag, right from web app. It's a small XML file. The only, instead of typing this, we are copying it. If you like to type it, you can try doing it. But anyway, copy. I would go back and paste it here. Perfect, same. Now, just to confirm that, hold control, take your mouse pointer, that happens to be a class. So this is your typical facade. This is 100% facade. Any request, immaterial, whatever comes to the world, done. He is the sole responsible. It's like you're getting married, you don't want to do things, you just call the wedding planner. Whatever you want, you tell this person. If this guy is not there, the entire show is gone. Okay, so we call, this is one of the design patterns in the world called as facade pattern. Okay, that's very important. Facade, F-A-C-E-D-E, facade. Facade. It's like, we also call this person as a front controller. He's not a controller. He's not about the controller which we talking about. He's called as a front controller, and he is sole responsible. And what he does in our case is he takes any request of the .html. Now, a lot of times these websites which are built these days having an extension as .html, still it generates a dynamic content because of this, because .html is always mapped to some business logic out there. Okay, getting it? So this should be okay. Yesterday when we started, I am trying to talk to somebody here. This is your context level or application first aid level, front controller. You can give any name. So basically, the Spring guys start calling this as first aid. You know that's been a quite common name. And of course, there's a design pattern called as first aid, which does all things. Perfect. What is our next job? You tell me. I'm front controller. The request came to me. I have to give it to somebody. Now this somebody is called as a controller. How do I give it? How do I give it?
But that servlet tells you where to go.
Perfect. So this tells where to go. Where? Yeah, from there. What does your dispatcher servlet do? You could have a look at it. You have a dispatcher servlet context. What does it do?
So look up the MVC file.
Perfect. You're going to look for a config file now. So what is the config name? Perfect. So it's company hyphen servlet.xml. Okay. You want to change something? Yes, you can go ahead and change something here. I would say it as your company or my company. Then your file name would be my company hyphen servlet.xml. And how many files you can have? Exactly one. It's one servlet, one XML. Now that XML can have n number of entries because it's a facet. So in my case, I leave it as it is. I call it as company hyphen servlet. If you look at this place, this is what you have got. Let me try opening it. Okay, so this person does little more job for us. Now he does a very simple job. He says, hey, look at this. I am a facet. I have got a control here. Okay. Now I have to send a request to somebody called as a controller. Now whose controller it is? Now you got to say this as user controller. It's user controller. Okay. How many controllers you can have? And all the controllers are POJO. That's the beauty of Spring. Right? Now I say, hey, look for all the controllers in this package. Now just by conventionally I have ended that package name with controller. Again, it's not mandatory. Okay. So in my case, it happens to be com.naveen.controller. Okay. So we'll make some changes, but not here. Then we have somebody called as view resolver. What does your view resolver do? The controller has done the job. Once after this, what should happen? It should come back to XML. Okay. The XML, it's like this entry. When it gives an entry for this, it says where to go from here. Where do I got to go? Any file which has to be given, it should have an internal source, view resolver. It should be prefixed with something, postfixed with something. Okay. Now the name what goes in between is decided by a controller which you write. Okay. Perfect. Good. Now don't copy the content. Copy the entire file. Take the file completely. So I'll copy this. I would write paste on Web.xml. Perfect. Done with this? Good. Now, just have a look at this. Maybe just before getting into this company servlet, I just want you to have a look at this resources. Okay, we have not got any packages. Now, it's left to you whether to create a package with the same name or you can change it here. Let's change it here. I'll not use Naveen. I would say something like my package. Okay, you could leave the same words or you can customize it the way you need it. Okay, but that's a component scan. When it's a component scan, it will look for all the controllers here the moment the facet gets a control. Okay, so you're gonna go ahead, select this, copy that string in your resources, new, create a package. The package name happens to be com.mypackage.controller. Okay, so here you go. I have this package. Is that okay? Are we there? Okay, so all your classes to be created somewhere here. So we try doing that right now. I'll right click on the controller, new, you create a class. It's not your servlet or anything complicated, it's a Pojo. Very simple. Be very straightforward now. Okay, let's call it as hello controller. So that is happen to come dot my package dot controller. Perfect. My package dot controller, and the class name I call it as hello controller. Okay, so it shows a simple class. Is that okay? Is getting it? So let me expand this. This is where I go. Now first and foremost, I got to say this as controller. I take the mouse pointer on it or press. Give me a second. Controller. That's your import. If you say this and it's all done. Okay. Now we have made this class as controller. Now the end user, when he makes a request, he sends something called as URL. Right. So when you get URL, you say this as request mapping. The request mapping will be you can give a name. Let's give it as hello. So it will be like that. So if somebody requests for hello.html, the Spring will take hello.html. It will look for hello, and the control is given to this class. Now this class will have a method. Now this method can be anything of your choice. Absolutely left to you. Is getting it? Okay, we'll go ahead quickly. So now I'll say public. Okay, now let's consider something like this. Let me use MS Paint for doing it. Let's assume something like this. Now, the reason why we are doing all these things is for a couple of reasons. So first and foremost, let me consider this way. I would have a client who basically makes a request. Okay. Now, what I can do is I can always have my web server as usual, and you have your deployment descriptor and so on. You can give a you can give a control to controller directly, no problem. Now I can always do it. Now my concern here is something like this. Let the control come to the XML file. The XML file calls the controller, the typical or the user controller. There might be something which this person have to send it to the end user. Okay, and this end user has to fill the data and send it back. It's not that rarely we use. Today the world has happened, everybody uses it. Maybe as an example, I would be using some other browser just to so I would stop. I would say it as gmail.com. I think if I have logged in, maybe if you get into gmail.com, if you don't enter anything and just say sign out. Okay. It's taking quite some time. But the idea is, right, you make a request, it goes to dispatcher servlet, there is somebody called as XML, okay, then you will have the business logic. Business logic want to give something. Now, it has to give something, right? What is it called as? It can't give a string like hi, bye and all. It has to give an object. Now, in Java, we call object as model. Now, what is our model? If we remember that every time you pass you give something from controller to DAO, we used to pass the bean. That bean is called as model. The analogy here is, okay, you are trying to pass something. What are you trying to pass? Model. Now think other way around. You requested and you got a blank model. I'll say, hey, look at this. Sundar, I want to create a form. Now, if Sundar says that, Naveen, I don't know which form you're trying to talk. I would say a form for employee. What he does is, he'll not redirect me to that page. Okay, understand this little cautiously. Now, he doesn't redirect me to page. Rather, what he does is, he, on the server side, creates a bean. Okay, that bean has got n number of properties. For those n number of properties, he tells me, hey, look at this. This is what you got to fill in. What I do is, as an end user, I fill this detail and click on submit. The moment I click on submit, let's assume that I've got 50 attributes. Okay. Now, when I send it back to Sundar, he has to do request.get parameter or something like this only once. Why? Because he has taken the pain of creating that bucket. If this was not there, just vanish off everything. So I have a form which has got 50 fields. Now he has to invariably start doing request.get parameter 50 times, and so on. And the problem here is network flow, because all the values has to be sent again and again, and too much of coding, and you're not following OOPS principle. Is that okay? So we call this as model and view. We call this as model and view. This is basically an object. Now, this is like a hash map. You can put anything. You can put employee object. You can put any other object. Send it. Okay. You give some name. Let's call it as hello world. Perfect. Now, since this is a method, I'll just say request mapping. You can give request mapping either here or at this level. So if you give the request mapping at the class level, so here in your method, it refers to hello. Maybe you would have seen these days, people have got a little fancy here, maybe the Gmail or I could even, you just have a look at this. You see this drive.google.com/drive/folders/something/something. Okay. Now I could say, hey, http://localhost:9090 your context /hello. It will come here. Am I right? /. That's only at 2 levels. Maybe it can go up to multiple levels. Then I should again specify something called as year. Is that okay? Now people don't do this .html. In my case, we are doing it because the web.xml is taking that. If you don't want, you can do this. Okay. So earlier to this, how we used to pass parameters, it was all with question mark, with key value pair. We did not have that sub reference. There was no concept of that. Okay. Now, hello world. Maybe this is okay. I just want some method name. I would say this as method is equal to request method dot. You have various methods, so I say it as I believe to use something like a href. So when I click on that, it will be the get method. So the next example we will see with the post, where I want to create a form kind of thing. Okay, is that with that? Good to go. So here you have a simple business logic. You want to say somebody has hello and send it to the view. The view will take the value from the model and view. It goes back to company dot, company hyphen servlet.xml. Here it finds this name. Now I would write something like this. I'll say string message. You can create anything of your choice. I'll say welcome to string. Perfect. Done. Some message. I just want to show that. Return new model and view, because that's our return type. I would also show how to return a string as well. Let's keep that as a second example. So you see here there are a lot of overloaded constructors. One does not take a parameter, one takes a string parameter. You can use this with one string parameter, or you can just return the string. It still works fine. Spring would understand. Or I would use something like this. The one which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. Okay, I just gonna show that. The view name. What is the view name? Where should it go? I want to send it to somebody called as hello. What is a model name? The model name is message. What is the object? Message. So now I'm saying string, hey, look at this. I want you, once this job is done, I'll return your model in view. Okay, you find a view by name called as hello. This hello will be prefixed by /web inf/JSP hello postfixed by .js. Okay, then in that file there is a key, or you can use a key called as message, that will have message. This message is welcome. Now it's just a model object. Now what difference does it make for you either to send a string or a complicated object in the world? It's still the same. Okay, is any question? Well, we'll take it further. So we're gonna have the next file. The next file is called as hello.jsp. Okay, we'll go back. Done with this part? Yeah, please.
You said that the third argument is actually the
Model object. Yes. This I can even create it, like maybe in next couple of examples I can say new employee. I can even pass this E. It's just a model.
So Naveen, on the web.xml, we have the URL pattern as .html. That means any request can only be of .html. But it is not landing you there. It is landing based upon whatever is there in the other XML.
Yeah.
Because if we don't use it, then generally it redefines index.html and all those different.
Exactly. That's right. Is done with this? Maybe here. Sundar is done with that?
Yeah.
Perfect. So now, okay. So let's get into WebINF. So I keep I look at this company file. We need a folder called as JSP. Create a folder here. You call it as JSP. Okay. Under this, the controller is giving you what? Hello. Now you will have JSP file, and the name of the JSP file will be, that's it. It is as simple as it. You could have a look at the hierarchy of the project. So now I would say maybe something like you learn that hello file. Maybe I'll just give some HR and let's say maybe in a paragraph message got is. So I've got a message, right? Now message is of what type? String type. So I can directly use it. Done. Expression language, which we did. It is as simple as it. You just say it as a message. Okay. Done. Which one? HR, horizontal row.
So how does this know that that string message was defined in the controller, right? It still recognizes that?
That's how it happens. Now, when hello controller does the job, it again gives back from the place it has got a controller.
Passing it back as a function.
Okay. It's done. So we'll have last program, which is our index.html, just to invoke it. Now, what do we invoke? Hello.html. So you look for a file called as index.html. I'm sorry, index.jsp or whatever, which is created. Okay. Try opening this. Here, maybe if you don't want this, you can get it. Href is like hello.html. Call hello. So some message I have just given it. It's done with this. So when we say hello.html, first it will look for web.xml. Let's try passing that. No. Web.xml. The web.xml will recognize is the extension is .html. Yes. If it is true, it will give it to dispatcher servlet. The dispatcher servlet will hand it over to servlet name. The servlet name is company. So it will look for a file called as servlet-company-servlet.xml. It gets a control here. It does a component scan. The component scan, you have it here. Here it will take hello, checks whether hello is there. Yes, I found hello. Is it of type get? Yes. Gets a message. In the model view, it keeps a value stack. It hands it over to hello.jsp. Hello.jsp will have the key called as message with a model element called as message, and that we are displaying. Okay. Let's try to execute this. I'll click on play. Maybe I need to create a server. If you don't have a server, just it's a class. String class. I'll use Apache Tomcat 7.0. I browse it. I should find it somewhere in D drive. Next. Finish. Let me just check. Give me a minute. Maybe in meantime you can configure the Tomcat server in your system. It's taking some time. Okay, done. Oh, it has a port problem. Okay. Hello, Dot. Give me a second. I have a problem with the port. I would go to. I should find that server right here. No. Windows. So servers. So here I have. I'll just rename the port number. I'll open this and rename it. So I call it as 9090. Perfect. Now go back to your index.jsp, play, finish. Oh, it says 404. Good. Just give me a minute. I'm sorry? Here is it? Not required. That's okay. It gives 404. Let me just check. Yes, are we getting it? Just check. It's working? Okay. Yeah. Message dot. Now this is the view name. This is the model name. This is the actual model. This is. Let me just put a message. I just in controller. just to check. Maybe this index restart. No mapping found for this. Oh, it's unable to find this name. Company hyphen servlet dot xml. It should be XML. Yes, does it give 404 error? For okay. There is some problem with the jars. It says Servlet API jar not loaded. Just give me a minute. Let me check form.xml. That's fine, but we are using Apache Tomcat. Maybe it's just a problem with this jar files. But I spent a lot of time doing this. No, let me just check.
Doesn't it do the URL pattern in the Web.xml? We're looking for ASIC.html.
Yeah, and our extension is .html here. Okay, so we have that. Yeah, we are also getting 404.
Yeah.
So we'll just have a look at this. It worked for me. I just made some changes. There, it was posted inside this package. In your case, what would have happened? This com.mypackage.controller is residing in this place. Yeah, yeah. Because I was in, no, that was, what you got to do is right click on the project. Right click on the project. New. You find for source folder. Source folder. src/java. In my case, it gives an error because I've already created it. Okay. So once you try doing, you will have this folder. Okay. Just drag the file which was there on this package. Just drag that on this package. And do not use this Eclipse internal browser. It's still using 404. See? No, Java file. That's for Maven. Right? Just try. Those are also made a change. It looks little differently, which I wanted to do it the next time, but the intentions were same. But anyway, if you want that, I can comment this. The one which we had earlier. View. Hello, model name is message. This was earlier. The line 29 was earlier. I just wanted to show that even this is same. Okay. Guys, do not use this internal browser. Internal browser still exists in 404. Use like Firefox or the one change is you got to change this package. Yeah. No.
Well, the folder is drive the mom folder.
From Yes, we are done.
My neighbor first.
The hello.jsp.
Yeah, I'm having the same problem with the $sign message.
Yes, this is generally happens. Now, in my case, maybe when you try executing, this is what you are looking at. It says that hey, you landed on file and so on. Now, what happens? It's not the behavior of JSP or whatsoever. By default, JSP does not enable expression language. We got to enable that. If not, what happens? It has processed. It has done the job, and it says that it's a string. Okay. Now, let me go back to this Eclipse here, right here, in my hello.jsp. Less than percentage accurate, which is, I would say, something like this page is EL ignored. I got to say this as false. Is expression language ignored? I should say no. This page expression languages are not ignored. You got to consider this. Now, again in the development environment, you might have this line or you may not have it, because most of the time this configuration goes into Web.xml. Default is actually false only, but certain times that doesn't take. I have another project, it takes. Here it is not taking. Okay, now let's go back to index.jsp. I just refresh. Yeah, I'm there. Just your flow file works perfectly fine. I did not made any change. This one, if you don't want, you can remove it. This was our old code. So this is other way of writing. You can say model.add attribute. When you have multiple attributes, you can keep adding. But in fact, our program problem was not on the controller on the business project. When we created Maven project, it somehow did not create this folder, right? So here all your XML configurations will go, all your resources will go. So here you will have all the sources. No? Somehow it slipped out of my mind. It's getting you done with this? You just make sure that you time. It looks pretty nice when we look. So we get the fun stuff. There's not too much of coding, but we're just studying about. So once it is set, you trust me, the next program is just like it doesn't have much thing. Yes, I'll do that. The next one I'll show you. There is one slide I'll show you that. Okay, I'll write my own things now. You done with that? Which one? Index file, is it? It's better. Is that done? Hello? Right. So we'll just have a look at this for a minute. So this is basically from Spring website itself, right? So that's officially from docs.spring.io, right? And the way how Spring is basically done. So we have an incoming request. You have a front controller. The front controller delegates it to the controller. Now many of times, even in the same block, it says user controller as well, or you call it as controller. Now this front controller is again divided into two things. Now one is your Web.xml, one is your the actual controller, which is a configuration file, the .xml file. It delegates the request to the controller. The controller is a class that can have n number of methods. You can write the controller information as request mapping at the class level or at the method level. So a lot of people write in their own way. So you have one big class like employee controller. You have 5 methods: insert, update, delete, select, and so on. So for insert, you want to do insert, update, delete, select, and so on. You can specify the post or get method. That's absolutely up to you. Once the controller does the job, it may not create a model. When it tries sending something called as a string, you're going to do it in the next example. It still has a model, but this model is return new model in view with one parameter. The one which we have created now is with 3 parameters. The first parameter is the view name, the second is the key, the third is the actual model being sent. Or you can try creating this model and send it back. Now, on the word of sending it, the entire model is sent back. Now, this model is actually a model. Now, how many models are there inside? It is unknown. I can say model.add attribute. So when I say attribute, it goes with the key value pair, key value pair. I can keep entering n number of models. So as of now, since we started here putting it as a string, so now I want employee object, account object, transaction object, and so on. You start stuffing it here. Now this person, it says that, okay, since this model comes from Spring, the Spring understands. Now what I want is, since the controller has given it to me, I want the view to render it. The moment the view renders it, my job is done. So it gives it to the front controller. The front controller gives same model. Okay. Now what my view template basically does, they call it as a template now. It may not be your JSP only. It could be JSP, it could be a portlet or whatever. So what happens? Since the front controller has called a view, it even gives a model. Now for this we use the expression language for extracting the information, or there are Spring tags. Spring tags is one of our next example or next example. You can try getting the value in one of the two fashions. Either go with the expression language when it is the primitive type, or you can extract the values with the Spring tags. Okay, then render it, and of course return control back to the end. So this is how it basically works. And it has a very neat explanation how it works, whatever I have told. I got this, and even I have copied a lot of things from the same site, right? So this is pretty straightforward. This is pretty known code for us now. Okay. Now here, of course, there are some binding values, some features of it, how it is, how powerful, straightforward. You have request parameter, path variable, all those things. That's where it goes. Right. Any other questions we have got? Spring? No? Okay. So we got two more programs. So we'll try doing two programs. Let's make a list. I want to have a login validation. Okay. And the next is I will invoke the same story. I'm going to start. I'll invoke a page. My controller will give me a page. When the page comes, it gives you a model. The actual model is our bean class now. Let the bean come. I'll fill in the bean. You take the bean, do whatever you want. And all the things you get it in only one go. There's no subsequent rows of. There's nothing called as n number of calls. It all happens in one call. Done. Okay. Now the beauty here is people here stay here. People in DAO stay in the DAO. People in database stay in the database. People here view people are there in the view and so on. It's highly cohesive model. The database people have no job here because they don't know. The view people have no job because they don't know. Because the glue here completely is done by Spring. That's a beauty. Yes, at the architectural level, we got to know how it works. Okay. Thank you. Any questions?